let's get started, I guess. Welcome everyone to the presentation. Bear with me a second. Alright, well, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the presentation. Bear with me a second. Alright, well, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the presentation. But also I'd like to pay my respect to the elders, past and present, and the elders of other communities who may be here with us today. So today and this week, we're really excited to share with you some special guests from all over the country that we've been able to convince to come all the way down here to share different aspects of space with you. Today we've got a whole day of speakers and the Victorian Space Science Education Centre have been kind enough to bring down a whole day of workshops for primary and secondary school students as well, which should be really, really exciting for all the young people here today. And over the next few days, we've got even more events happening as well. So today we call it our Family Day. So we're starting off with more, I guess, child-friendly topics and things like that. And as we go on, we get, I guess, a little bit more serious and more towards more political discussion. And we've got some really cool things. We've got obviously more speakers and more workshops. So we've got Lego education coming in. They're actually going to run some workshops for teachers themselves, teaching teachers how to teach. We're running a 2-day hackathon, which for those who don't know, essentially a hackathon is where we solve some really interesting problems. So we've got 3 really interesting space-related problems. One of them is essentially related to origami, including large things in small spaces to get them in space for a much cheaper price. One of them is with regards to writing some applications that can get children really excited about STEM, and science and all that sort of thing. And then we've actually got a really, I think it's quite interesting, it doesn't sound it, it's really space law. So what I'll touch on briefly here, because this talk is actually, I guess, more for the parents in the room and maybe some of the teens as opposed to the real young ones. But space law is actually a really, really hot topic and something you don't usually think of when you think of space and you picture rockets and satellites. So we've got lots of things in these 5 days, and it's been absolutely crazy trying to set it all up as a group of volunteers. So this is the first time we've actually ever put on a large event like this. And as far as we know, it's actually the largest space event for the public that has ever happened in Australia. And so for a group of volunteers, particularly where a majority of us have just finished exams this last week, this has been a very, very huge undertaking. So we're actually hoping to learn a lot from this. I guess this is sort of like a beta test for running one of these festivals for all of you. And we hope that you guys can learn a lot as well. So everything we've done for you for these 5 days has been on a shoestring budget. That's pretty, I guess, key to what the Melbourne Space Program is all about, which we'll touch on very soon. We're trying to do a lot with not very much at all. And that means we can do some really cool things. So even, we don't have that much money, we can do a really cool fun-day festival, we can build and launch an entire satellite. And we hope that's something that can inspire a lot of you as well. So is that So, you, with the Final Frontier Festival, we're hoping to essentially include you all in our very, very ambitious project. So, while a lot of you might be excited about us saying, yes, cool, we're going to build a satellite, and we'll tell you about that in a minute as well. The Final Frontier Festival and all of the workshops that we're doing and all this public outreach is really, really key to what our real mission is. And we really enjoy reaching out to you. So I hope that when you guys are traveling home, whether it's today or in a few days, and that sort of thing, that you'll really be able to appreciate all the effort that has gone into this. So, delving right into it, what is the Melbourne Space Program? So essentially, some people either think of NASA when they think of the space program, or when they think of, okay, it's the University of Melbourne, must be a bunch of students and they're just daydreaming, getting really ambitious, pretending they're going to build this really amazing satellite. We're somewhere in between. Yes, it's very, very ambitious, but we're totally serious, and we're also very, very capable of doing something like this. So we're also only about 18 months old now. We started with a very small group of people, essentially around a group of 15 to 20 engineering students. We said, let's build a satellite. So yes, it sounds very ambitious, maybe a little bit impressive, and it is. The engineering aspect itself isn't actually that difficult to overcome. And that's because it's actually the same. So this is, we're sort of jumping the gun a little bit. This is the same size as what our first satellite will be. And it's going to use the exact same technology that you have in your mobile phone or in a smartwatch on your wrist. And so it's very much within the realm of possibility to do. Yet we realized really early on that we needed students with lots of different skill sets. So we've got a lot of law students, we've got a lot of finance students, we've got a lot of marketing students now as well. And so we realized that it's really important to have not just scientists and engineers working on these sort of things. We need to include a lot of people. When we get a lot of people that might be interested in space, that wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to do anything with the satellite or the space program, we're able to include them in some of this amazing work, and we rely on them for that. So we're asking a lot from all of our volunteers, because no one is getting paid for any of this. And so what we have to give something back to them. So we give them a lot of professional development, and they get work experience with working with sponsors and potential future employees and that sort of stuff. And I won't go into it, because that can get a little bit boring. But essentially, students get to work with other students with very, very different skill sets. So we've got law students working with engineers to solve some really complex problems together, and they tackle those problems in very different ways, and that helps everybody develop. And so my point here is that we're including all of you in our conference festival because we want to extend that beyond just internally to our program. We want to help all the little kids get really excited about science and technology and engage with it. Not to think, I don't want to be a nerd, but I'm interested in that. There's some really, really cool stuff that everybody can get to do, and hopefully we can help with that festival. So we are a group that's vastly more comprehensive than any other practical student project at the university. And as a part of that, we also realised, so this is not for the parents, it is or the adults that are listening, or the older teens. We realised that we need to engage with government to make sure our space program was actually sustainable and pass a single launch. There's a lot of regulation, a lot of law that we have to actually tackle. So the initial idea was, yes, build a satellite. We said, why start with one satellite? Let's make sure it's a useful satellite or it's a part of a useful project. Let's make sure that people participating in getting a lot of use on the satellite. And then we obviously know science and research and that sort of thing benefits the economy and society a lot. So let's make sure that we actually include that within our goals as well. So it's huge benefits to having a space industry for our society and economy, and we also need to invest in our future. And that's part of what made the space program. So for me, I think back to when I was a kid, and the CSIRO came once or twice to my school, and they do some really, really cool experiments, and that was really fantastic. So I'm really excited to be able to do this with the rest of the team that I'm working with, and we can share this with you as well. So, as we matured, we created a company so that we weren't just a student group, and hopefully we can start to change that image. It gave us a lot more flexibility with what we can do here. We can stay affiliated with the University of Melbourne. We're able to work with a lot more groups and to run events like this, where we can include people in our program who aren't just from the University of Melbourne. And it also allows us to show that we want to become a lot more professional. We don't want to remain just amateurs, and we want to have a lot more credibility. So this is our mission statement. So we seek to promote innovation, technological development and education in support of a strong Australian aerospace sector that contributes significant social and financial value both nationally and internationally. And so from that, we focus on three main areas. So then we've got research, and so that's obviously the research that goes into actually building the satellite, interest in payloads and things that we can do with those satellites, as well as looking into the law, the economics and policy behind how can we have a really good space industry in Australia that contributes globally and contributes significantly locally as well. We've got education and professional development, which is exactly where the Farmer Frontier Festival fits in. And that's where you're all playing a part of it now, just being here. And obviously we've also got our science and engineering development, and that's where we are putting together the satellites. Maybe in the future we'll do drones and things like that for the low atmosphere environments like on Mars, so that we can actually do some really useful, create some really useful technologies that can potentially spin off into companies that contribute to an Australian space sector. Because we're the only nation in the world that doesn't have our own space capability. Sorry, the only nation, OECD nation that doesn't have our own space capability. And so why is that? It's very, very strange. Even New Zealand have their own space program now. They're starting to have a thriving space industry. We've got a lot of companies in Australia that are looking to start up and join essentially a new wave of space technology development. So we need to understand what's getting in the way of that, and what value does it add by reducing the regulation and stopping it. So, what are we doing? Well, we're building a satellite. This is the first one. Not this one exactly, we're going to send this into space, but we're keeping it relatively simple. What to do? This one, so if when you're outside, if you look behind us, there's a really tall building with a big satellite dish on one side. So we've essentially worked over the last year to repurpose that. It used to be a weather radar installed in 1964 for the Bureau of Meteorology. And so we can now use that for tracking satellites and communicating with them as well. And so the next step is we need to finish our first satellite, because we need to test that can actually work. We need to test that we have been able to talk to the government and get the right licensing to ship our satellite across overseas to a launch provider that the government has said yes, we're allowed to launch with, so it's essentially a rocket company, and that we can get it up into space. And at that point, that's where we know that 50% of satellites that get launched actually happen to fail for one reason or another. So we're trying to minimize that by keeping it really simple. Now there's a few other groups that are building satellites, these really small scale satellites in Australia now as well. What makes ours a little bit different is that we're building ours from scratch. We're not buying off-the-shelf subsystems, so you can buy computers, a little board that costs like $20,000, and you can just plug them in. And it's actually quite simple in a satellite now, which is a really amazing thing. We want to teach our students, we want our students to learn, what does it take to build a satellite? To actually have a real understanding of what goes into it, rather than just relying on foreign companies to do it for us. And so that's a really critical learning aspect for us. So we want to build a truly Australian satellite, all with Australian components, where we can have technologies that tend to turn up to companies that benefit from Australian space economy and things like that. Just realised a couple of slides. Hold on for a second. We're going to build skilled Australian engineers. So this all might sound far-fetched, but it's really not. We've got a team of over 200 students and alumni now that are participating in this. And maybe one day, in a couple of years' time, if you guys come to the University of Melbourne, or hopefully we'll be able to expand a little bit beyond that, you'll be able to be a part of this as well. And essentially a part of making history. Now these satellites, even though they're very small, the way that we think about things like this, satellites in the past have been about the size of a truck. They might cost $500 million, and they'll be up in space for decades. in operation, usually they'll be up there, they'll stay up there for hundreds, if not thousands of years, just because of the high orbits that they go into. Now with these small satellites, these are much, much cheaper. So we can build a CubeSat, for example, from between $2,000 to $10,000 that would be really, really useful. And it's really tiny, so comparatively to launch it out into orbit is quite cheap. So for us, we're probably looking at about $100,000 for the first one. And in a few years' time, we expect, there's already offers out there for new startup companies that are saying they'll be able to launch them up there for around $20,000 or even $15,000. So that's why there's a few companies now making it. Facebook, I think Google as well is doing it now, Samsung, which is whatever I thought, but they're actually looking at putting hundreds of these small satellites up into low Earth orbit, where they'll only be up there for a few months' time because they're essentially then disposable. They can just put new ones up. So there's a whole range of new possibilities because of these really cheap, tiny little satellites. And so they become really powerful. So like the phones, they're in your pocket, they're really tiny, like computers on your wrist. They're much more powerful than the computers that a few decades ago that used to take up entire rooms. So are these satellites. So don't be fooled by the incredibly small form factor. So I'll pass it around. This one's, I won't go into it, but this is the same size as well. So. So one of the other interesting things with this, yes, we're building a satellite. We've told you it's not going to do anything too interesting in this first one. What we want to eventually do is have these small satellites, if we want, say, 10 of them, or 100 of them, or 1,000 of them into orbit, can we get them to talk to each other? Because then they can spread over a really large area, much more than one single large satellite could, and they can do really amazing things if they're talking to each other. And so we're actually trying to build at the moment an inflatable antenna. So this is similar to the hackathon challenge that I told you about just before, where we're saying, okay, well, we've got a really small amount of room that we can have stuff in, and that has to fit electronics, that has to fit power systems, solar panels, all of that sort of thing. So what if we want a really big antenna? We're building a small space. So let's create a special balloon that fits into one of these little boxes. And when it gets into space, it expands. We've got this a special powder in it, and it turns into a gas when it gets into space. And so it inflates like a big balloon and forms this big satellite dish, essentially, this tiny little box. Now why that's really special is because we've only got a certain amount of space that we can fit solar panels on this satellite. And so we've only got a certain amount of power. But if we want to be able to transfer lots of data, we need to have a bigger antenna because it amplifies the signal. And so this is what we're prototyping this here. So you'll be able to see this at the exhibition later in the week. We might have it around somewhere today as well. We've got a mock-up going at the moment. But, and so here you can see that we've got that first antenna, and I don't know if you can see it, you can see two little lines sort of crossing over there as well, and that's our backup antenna that we're prototyping at the moment. So eventually we want these to be able to talk to each other, to be able to talk to Earth, and so we can do some really interesting things with telecommunication, or even what we call remote sensing, so Earth observation stuff. So it's going to things like agriculture or the weather and that sort of stuff. The other cool thing about these really tiny satellites is NASA themselves are actually using them for these now too. So on the next Mars rover mission, there's actually two of these cube satellites that will be traveling along with it for exactly the same sort of use just displayed, where the rover will be able to talk to them before it comes back to Earth. And so you're starting to see that we're developing essentially a bit of an internet in the solar system. So we can be a part of that, and we're not behind in developing this as well, even as a group of students in Melbourne, Australia. So TDRS is I won't go into it. So, education and public outreach. As I said, this is also a really big we hope that we'll be able to run a lot more events and improve those events over time as well, and that you guys will be able to get a lot of value out of them. And so as I said, this is the first time I've run such a big event, so we're also looking for your feedback afterwards, because we know there's a lot that we can improve on. We're starting to see a lot of increase in space industry, even in Australia, despite all of this regulation that's stopping a lot from happening. There's a lot of space startups, and that's why there's going to be some of the exhibition, because we want to show everyone that there is a lot of space companies starting to form. Some of them couldn't make it, but there will be a lot there still as well. Outside of Melbourne, there's also a lot more space academic research happening. And so we want to try to show the public that we're actually doing a lot this global space now, even though we don't really think of Australia as doing an incredible amount in space. So it's time to show the public what's out there. So as much as I don't sound too over enthusiastic at the moment to myself, get excited. So where will we launch from? Well, in all likeliness, we're going to be launching from overseas. We can't tell you exactly where that's going to be at the moment, because there's still a lot of legal issues we have to sort out with the government. And in the next month or a half, we will probably have launched into a launch provider that we're allowed to launch with at that stage. There's currently no companies in Australia that will actually offer launch services, but there are some that are working on it. So we're hoping in the next couple of years that we'll actually be able to work with some companies. So for example, there's one in Queensland called Gilmore Space, and they're developing their own rockets at the moment. Yeah, it should be really cool. So some of the options that we have, so in all likeliness, will probably go up on a SpaceX rocket, because everyone's heard of SpaceX, actually. So not making any promises, we'll probably go up on a SpaceX rocket, and what they'll likely do is put us on the International Space Station where we'll wait for a few months, and then essentially they push us out of the ship. And we should have a video of that as well when that happens. So it's going to be pretty cool. Now, we're hoping to do this before 2018. That's our hard deadline. We're hoping to do it as early as possible, sometime next year. The 2018 is our hard deadline. Now, one of the other hurdles that we've got this sort of time for this stuff is actually insurance. It's a little bit more expensive than what you pay for your car insurance, for your house insurance. So in Australia, we're actually the most expensive nation in the world to apply for a license to our own government to get permission to launch. Because if someone launches something into space, actually the government is liable, and they get in trouble if anything goes wrong. So we have to show that we're covered for up to $750 million if something goes wrong. And nothing ever actually has in the history of this insurance scheme in space. It's essentially if your satellite blows up something else in the first 30 days. Never has that actually happened before. So we're actually talking to the government at the moment. There's a big review of the space activities that's happening, and we're hoping that they can reduce that. Because one of the, for example, we were talking to one launch provider and said they could cover us for 10% of the cost, which would still mean for a small satellite that might cost us $10,000 to make. It might cost us $80,000 to launch it. Well, it's going to cost us $75 million just for insurance. Whereas if we were, for example, in Pakistan, we've heard of it, theirs I think is $90,000, so they have to pay $9,000, which is much more reasonable than $75 million. So you can start to see how the legal barrier is actually a lot more. So, a bit of a 5-year plan. We want to grow our organisation a little bit more. We've obviously got a lot of people. We want to make sure that everyone has clearly defined roles within that. We want to make sure that we've got a lot more people from other faculties. So people that aren't just scientists and engineers, people that are, for example, learning to become teachers, that can help us write workshops and material, so we can come out to local schools and do things like play with those little Spiro robots that you might get to play with today, or make your own, build a comet is one of the ideas that we're playing with at the moment. Some really cool stuff like that. We want to do multiple missions. So as I said, this satellite is hopefully just the first of many missions. It's relatively simple. You can put all of our eggs in one basket and just turn into one thing. It's really amazing Inspector Gadget satellite that ultimately fails. We want to do some really cool stuff that will impress everyone. Educational outreach is one of my favourite aspects. So we want to talk to more secondary schools and other universities as well. And political change. So again, it's a little bit boring, but we're meeting with federal MPs, and actually we've been invited to Parliament House, which some of you also might have actually been there, to advise government on space activities after a year. And we've got some law students and school of government students that are looking into the policies about, okay, why do we have no space industry? Why do we have all these limitations, and what should they be? Is there any foreign policy that we do this? And so at the moment, even now, in only 18 months' time, we're technically it's the largest space organisation in Australia by membership, and everybody that's part of it volunteers. And we're hoping that we give everyone, both internally and outside of that organisation, a lot of value. And so we've still got a lot of work to do, especially because we want to become, it's a bit of an industry leader. We want to become an incubator for companies that can be a part of a really thriving Australian space industry. And that doesn't mean just building satellites or rockets and things like that, but also growing STEAM. So STEAM, for those who don't know, is a new STEM. They included an A for the arts. And that's essentially for the same reason that I explained why we've got law students and finance students and that sort of thing. And so I've pretty much sort of covered a lot of this anyway. But so, Final Frontier is designed to have a lot of speakers come and chat to you guys about how would a space, not necessarily a space program, but a space industry help the nation? How does it really contribute? Because I say, for example, the space is the medium for technology that every single industry of our economy relies on, whether it's finance, whether it's defence, whether it's agriculture. They all rely on space in Australia and have our own space capability. I won't go into it. I'm really losing my voice now. But thank you for bearing with me. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to contact us. There's plenty of people that have voices today that are very excited to have a chat to as well. Make sure you add us on Facebook or on Twitter, or just, as I said, just come and have a chat to us. We're very excited to do it. We're also live streaming these videos, and so you'll be able to both watch them later or tweet on them, and we're going to have Q&A sessions and things like that later in the week if you're still around. So thank you very much.